You've been trying on versions of yourself for years, draping identities over your soul like clothes that never quite fit. You've stood in front of life's mirror, adjusting, shrinking, second-guessing, wondering if the world would finally say, yes, this is the one. But here's the truth you've been waiting to hear. Your self-worth was never meant to be measured by what you wear, what you do, what others say, or how perfectly you perform. Your self-worth is your original design. You don't need permission to feel worthy. You don't need a label, a number, or an applause. You just need to remember who styled your soul, because that version, the real you, has always been priceless. We live in a world obsessed with image, where filters are thicker than foundation and confidence is often confused with comparison. But a true stylist, one who transforms not just your look but your life, doesn't work from the outside in. The self-worth stylist reaches inside and rearranges what's buried beneath the noise. Because until you believe in your own value, nothing you achieve will ever feel like enough. You could build empires and still feel empty. You could walk red carpets and still feel like an imposter. You could be admired by millions and still look in the mirror and not recognize yourself. It's not about becoming more, it's about unbecoming everything that made you forget how worthy you already are. Self-worth is not earned, it is remembered. This idea challenges the deeply ingrained belief that we must achieve, perform, or prove ourselves to be valuable. From a young age, many of us are taught to equate our worth with our output, our grades, appearance, accolades, relationships, or how useful we are to others. We learn to chase validation, to hustle for love, to seek approval as if it holds the keys to our self-esteem. But true self-worth isn't something you build through external accomplishments. It's something you uncover by removing the layers of doubt, fear, and conditioning that made you forget who you were in the first place. When you were born, you didn't need to do anything to be worthy. You didn't need to earn affection. You didn't have to prove yourself. You simply existed, and your worth was unquestioned. But as life unfolded, experiences, expectations, and environments started to shift that knowing. Maybe someone told you that you had to be a certain way to be loved. Maybe society convinced you that your value was tied to your productivity. Maybe trauma made you feel small or unseen, and slowly you began to forget. You forgot that worth is inherent, not conditional. Remembering your self-worth is an act of liberation. It's the process of peeling away every lie that told you that you weren't enough. It's the decision to no longer outsource your value to opinions, status, or circumstances. It's the return to your original state, the one where you trust your voice, own your space, and live without apology. You stop waiting for someone else to approve of your dreams, to validate your beauty, to recognize your talent. You realize that your worth doesn't increase when others notice you or decrease when they ignore you. It simply is. This shift is powerful because it breaks this cycle of constant striving. Instead of living to prove, you begin to live to express. Instead of chasing significance, you radiate authenticity. Life becomes less about earning love and more about embodying truth. When you remember your worth, you walk differently. You speak with more certainty. You make choices that honor your values rather than betray them. You stop negotiating with your boundaries. You begin to treat yourself as someone who matters because you do. And as you remember, you also teach. Your energy becomes a mirror, showing others what it looks like to walk in their own worth. You become the permission slip for others to remember too. This isn't arrogance. It's integrity. It's not entitlement. It's embodiment. Your worth was never lost. It was only hidden beneath layers of forgetting. And the moment you remember it, your entire world begins to shift. The fear softens. The shame dissolves. The silence breaks. And the real you returns whole, radiant, and unshakably enough. Styling self-worth is an inside job. While the world tries to convince us that our value lies in how we look, what we accomplish, or how others perceive us, the truth is that lasting transformation begins from within. External success without internal alignment often leaves us feeling empty, no matter how shiny the surface appears. We live in a culture that praises outward appearances, career titles, curated photos, flawless performances, but none of that means anything if you're disconnected from your core. The real shift happens when you stop fixing the outside to compensate for what feels broken inside and instead begin nurturing the foundation of your being. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that if we change something on the outside, a new job, a new body, a new relationship, we'll finally feel worthy. But without inner healing and self-connection, those changes are temporary distractions. True self-worth doesn't come from what you wear, own, or achieve. It comes from how deeply you accept yourself, flaws and all. Styling your worth internally means being honest about the wounds you've carried, the beliefs you've inherited, and the fears you've internalized. It means sitting with the uncomfortable truths and choosing to love yourself anyway. It means rewriting the narratives that told you you had to earn love and replacing them with ones rooted in truth and compassion. This inside job requires courage because it doesn't always come with quick results or applause. There's no audience cheering you on when you're in your bedroom affirming your worth through tears. There's no trophy for choosing to believe in yourself after being rejected. But this is the most important work you'll ever do, because when you heal your inner world, your outer world begins to align with it. You stop settling for relationships that drain you. You stop working jobs that deplete you. You stop entertaining environments that dishonor you. Your standards rise, not out of pride, but from clarity. Styling your self-worth from within also teaches you how to show up authentically. You don't have to pretend anymore. You don't have to perform. You get to be fully seen and fully accepted, first by yourself and eventually by those aligned with your truth. This kind of self-worth doesn't waver with rejection or crumble under failure. It remains steady because it's rooted in something deeper than opinion or circumstance. It's grounded in your decision to stand in your own power, regardless of who notices or applauds. As you do the inner work, the way you carry yourself changes. Your energy shifts. Your presence becomes more magnetic. Not because you're trying to be noticed, but because you're finally aligned. Styling your self-worth from within is a declaration that you are enough as you are. And from that place, anything you choose to build on the outside will be sustainable, fulfilling, and real. Stop dressing your soul for approval. So many people live their lives as if they are constantly auditioning for someone else's validation. They mold themselves into what others want them to be, shrink their truth to fit expectations, and silence their authenticity in exchange for temporary acceptance. This constant need for approval becomes a prison disguised as praise. It's exhausting to perform for love, to edit yourself for acceptance, to present only the palatable pieces of who you are in fear of being too much or not enough. But your soul was not designed to be dressed in fear. It was meant to shine in truth. When you dress your soul for approval, you begin to confuse worth with performance. You start thinking your value is determined by how much others like you, how often you're praised, or how well you follow the rules set by someone else. But the more you perform, the more disconnected you become. Approval becomes addictive, and suddenly you're no longer living for yourself, you're living for applause. And yet no amount of external validation can fill the emptiness created by self-abandonment. Every time you say yes when you mean no, every time you pretend to be fine when you're hurting, every time you act smaller to keep others comfortable, you lose a part of yourself. The soul doesn't thrive in performance, it thrives in presence, and presence requires truth. To stop dressing your soul for approval means you stop asking, will they like me, and start asking, does this honor me? It means choosing authenticity over acceptance. It means letting go of the image and embracing the essence. When you finally decide to live unfiltered without the pressure to please, you give your soul the freedom to breathe. Approval from others is fickle. It changes with mood, with trend, with misunderstanding. But approval from within is steady. It anchors you. It reminds you that even if no one claps, your voice still matters. Even if no one agrees, your truth is still valid. When you choose to be real instead of liked, you create space for the people who are meant for you, people who see you, not just your mask. People who resonate with your essence, not your performance. And more importantly, you reconnect with yourself. The most beautiful version of you is the one not trying to be liked. It's the version that walks with conviction, that speaks from the heart, that honors their boundaries without guilt. It's the you that knows worthiness isn't up for negotiation. When you stop dressing your soul for approval, you start dressing it in alignment with courage, integrity, and self-respect. You stop bending to fit into spaces that weren't built for your truth, and you begin to create a life that actually feels like yours. You don't need to win people over to prove your value, you just need to win yourself back. Approval might feel good for a moment, but freedom feels good forever. Choose freedom, choose truth, choose you. Your worth is not conditional on performance. This truth is one of the most liberating realizations you can embrace in a world that constantly measures people by their productivity, perfection, and pace. From an early age, we're taught that being valuable means being busy, being useful, being impressive. We internalize the belief that we must earn rest, prove our right to be loved, and constantly produce results to justify our existence. But the truth is, your worth doesn't rise and fall with your performance. It doesn't increase when you succeed, and it doesn't diminish when you fail. It simply is unchanging, unwavering, and whole. You don't have to be the best to be enough. You don't have to win every battle, solve every problem, or meet every expectation to be worthy of love, respect, or peace. Your worth is not tied to your resume, your grades, your income, your appearance, or how much you can give to others. It's not something you can hustle for or maintain through perfectionism. Trying to earn your worth through performance is like running on a treadmill that never stops. No matter how far you go, it keeps demanding more, and eventually you burn out. There will be days when you don't feel strong, when you're unproductive, emotional, or unsure, and on those days your worth is just as intact as when you're thriving. Resting does not make you less valuable. Making mistakes does not make you less deserving. Falling behind does not erase your importance. These moments are part of the human experience, not indicators of failure. Yet so many people live trapped in cycles of guilt, constantly chasing achievements to avoid the fear of being not enough. When you untangle your self-worth from your performance, you begin to reclaim your humanity. You start treating yourself with compassion, not criticism. You begin to allow space for rest, reflection, and real emotions. You stop measuring your value by your output and begin honoring the person behind the performance. This shift is powerful because it redefines success, not as doing more, but as becoming more aligned. It allows you to stop proving and start being. Living from this place changes everything. You stop overworking to feel valuable. You stop overgiving to feel loved. You stop trying to impress everyone just to feel safe. You begin to do things not from fear of inadequacy, but from a place of truth and joy. You show up for your goals because you want to, not because you have to earn your existence. And even if you fall short, you still speak to yourself with kindness. That is power. Your worth is not something you have to chase, it's something you have to remember. And when you live from that awareness, you begin to move through the world with a quiet confidence that says, I am enough, not because of what I do, but because of who I am. That truth sets you free. Choosing yourself sets the standard for others. The way you treat yourself teaches the world how to treat you. People mirror back to you what you consistently allow, tolerate, and normalize. If you constantly put yourself last, silence your needs, or abandon your boundaries, you silently signal that this is acceptable. But the moment you begin to choose yourself, not out of selfishness, but out of self-respect, you shift everything around you. Your energy changes, your presence changes, and so does the way people respond to you. Choosing yourself is not about being better than anyone else. It's about no longer being less than yourself. It's about honoring your voice, your time, your energy, and your values even when it's uncomfortable. It's about saying no when something doesn't align, even if saying yes would keep the peace. It's about showing up for your own healing, your own joy, and your own growth, not waiting for someone else to give you permission or make you a priority. You become the one who sets the tone for your life. When you make decisions that reflect self-love, it creates a ripple effect. People begin to see that you're not available for disrespect, manipulation, or neglect. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop apologizing for existing. You stop bending to fit into places that were never built for your truth. The boundaries you set become a reflection of your self-worth, not a defense mechanism. You create space not just for others to treat you better, but for yourself to experience peace, purpose, and freedom. Many people wait for others to value them before they value themselves. They wait for someone to choose them before they believe they're worthy. But the real shift happens when you choose yourself first. You no longer look to others to validate what you already know. You no longer chase love from people who can't even love themselves. You no longer shrink in spaces that feel unsafe. You choose yourself over and over again, and with each choice, you grow stronger, clearer, and more whole. This choice is not always easy. It may mean walking away from relationships that drain you. It may mean disappointing people who benefited from your self-abandonment. It may mean facing loneliness for a while before new alignment arrives. But what you gain in return is priceless. You gain integrity, you gain peace, you gain self-trust. And when people see that you hold yourself to a standard of love, they either rise to meet you or they fade away. Choosing yourself doesn't mean you never care for others. It means you care for others without sacrificing yourself in the process. It means you lead with compassion, but also with clarity. You live with openness, but not with emptiness. You become someone who shows up full, able to give love, not out of need, but from overflow. That's the standard. And once you set it, the rest of your life starts to reflect it. Let go of versions of yourself built from fear. Throughout life, we create identities to protect ourselves, versions of us shaped by rejection, criticism, trauma, and survival. These versions are not inauthentic, but they are incomplete. They are masks we put on to fit in, to feel safe, to avoid pain. At some point, they served a purpose. They helped us cope, stay small to avoid judgment, or stay agreeable to avoid abandonment. But the very versions that once kept us safe can eventually become the very things that hold us back. To truly step into your power, you must be willing to let go of those outdated layers and return to the version of you that existed before fear rewrote your story. Fear-based identities are usually built on shoulds and what ifs. You feel you should be quiet to avoid conflict. You should be perfect to earn love. You should be agreeable so you won't be left behind. But none of these versions are rooted in your truth. They are reactions to pain, not expressions of purpose. And holding on to them will only delay your growth. Letting go of them doesn't mean you're ungrateful for how they helped you survive. It means you're ready to stop just surviving and start living. To evolve into your highest self, you must create space by releasing these protective roles. That may mean letting go of the people pleaser, the overachiever, the perfectionist, the fixer, or the one who always smiles even when breaking inside. You must look those versions in the eye and say, "Thank you for helping me, but I don't need you anymore." That moment is one of power when you recognize that your truth is stronger than your fear. Letting go is an act of remembrance. You are not discovering a new you are returning to the real you, the one that existed before the world convinced you to shrink, the you that spoke freely, loved boldly, dreamed without limits. That self is still inside you, waiting to be reawakened. But they can't rise while fear is holding the wheel. You must choose to lead with truth instead. This kind of release is not a one-time event. It's a continual unfolding. Each day you peel back another layer. You speak more honestly. You stand more fully. You begin to see yourself not through the lens of protection, but through the lens of potential. And what you begin to attract changes with you. More aligned relationships, more fulfilling opportunities, more peace. It's not about being fearless. It's about not letting fear define you. You acknowledge it, but you don't obey it. You let your decisions be guided by clarity, not anxiety. And in that space, the truest version of you emerges, not the one who's been edited to please others, but the one who radiates from self-worth. Letting go of fear-built identities is how you step into freedom. And once you taste that freedom, you'll never want to live any other way again.